strike, no more school today. They want more money, but the board won't pay. Everybody's talking about ecology. The air's so polluted that it's hard to breathe. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs, a carousel. Changing people's heads around. Go underground, young men. People make the world go round. Old folks judge you by the clothes you wear. They swear you a hippie if you have long hair. Young politicians fight for poverty, while people still cry for equality. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs, a carousel. Changing people's heads around. Go underground, young men. People make the world go round. La 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 la. La 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 la. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs, a carousel. Changing people's heads around. Go underground, young men. People make the world go round and around and around. People make the world go round and around and around. People make the world go round and around and around. People make the world go round and around and around. People make the world go round and around and
You smell that air? There's something different about it. Something free about it. That's right. School's out for the summer, and what better way to settle in the sunny summer days besides smoking some seriously sublime singes while watching the world wheel on its woeful worries without weaving you into it. What's up? It's Mick, and today I'm going to be showing you my top 10 smoke spots in Bully Scholarship Edition. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in. Settling for less at number 10 is smoking with sandy socks. Close enough to campus is one of Bullworth's bridges, and getting underneath it is a simple task. The low barrier to entry for this location is the simple tell for how much quality the spot reserves, which is to say, not a whole lot, as this is typically one of the last resort spots or if you just need to find a quick solution to smoking in peace. Sometimes people passing the bridge itself overhead can pick up the scent of the fumes flying skyward and, in response, albeit rarely, can call the police to come over and investigate it, which of course leaves them but a simple hop and a skip away from stumbling across your sesh. And then you'll have those fucking pigs on your back. As for the actual spot itself as it is, well, the title says it all. You're going to be smoking up with some sandy socks if it gets into your shoes, and it's really uncomfortable. It also means there's a serious lack of places to sit under here unless you want to do some wall sitting exercises. Overall, very simple spot, not the greatest and not really much to see, but certainly there to help out in a time of dire need should it arise. However, there is a standout point for this bridge though, and that is, it works as a perfect choke point for ambushing any vehicle, like a bus, passing the school. So, since this is a perfect pranking position, I think it stays nicely at number 10. Gathering in secret at number 9 is the prank planning plumes. In the staff-only basement of the school, there's maintenance closets, storage boxes, rats, and, most importantly, a warm furnace room to relax in. This place is supposed to be closed off to the students, and they almost got it because everything after the furnace is blocked off, but the furnace room itself, where delinquent students can get easy access to a stoked flame, isn't blocked. But that's lucky for us, because when it goes beyond summer and into the colder parts of the year, this is the perfect place to sneak away and set some flora on fire next to the fire. But one of the better things I like about this area is that it invites some smoky cooperation. There's plenty of room in here, and once that furnace is fuming, this place gets toasty and cozy. When you consider all the characteristics of this spot, it should be quite believable that this is the exact place where we held meetings during the entire planning for one big prank we pulled last Halloween. It was crazy, we had schematics and a mapped route and everything. Then, on the night before Halloween, we needed to dispose of our plans in case we got caught. So our first instinct was to go to the library where we have paper shredders. But knowing those librarians, they would have expected something was up and investigated the shredded papers. So we then realized the answer was sitting next to us, keeping us warm the entire time. The great iron furnace. The best place in the whole school to turn evidence into ash. Perhaps I might tell you more about this prank later on, but for now, this is a nice spot to get your friends together and get smoked up because the staff themselves don't even come down here nearly as much as the students, so the chances of being found or caught are slim to none. This nicely nestles at number 9. Securing samples at number 8 is the industrial Roth's weed growth. Exploring the industrial side of Bullworth seems like it may be a lost cause for good smoke spots, except maybe some random alleyways here and there which don't seem particularly cozy. But what if I told you there was a chill place to smoke and actually secure some freshly grown leaves of magic? Well, allow me to show you my number 8 spot. If you follow Bullworth's main rail line into the industrial side of town, you should have no problem finding the warehouse for Spencer Shipping International. If we head around the back, we can hop the gate and get to the second floor iron door right before any more time to bore. Once we get inside, the scent should hit you right away, and rightly so, surrounded by those leaves you know. Now this may or may not be an operation run by some people much larger than us, but hey, if you're gonna leave it as open as they are like this, where the fucking pigs themselves could walk in and find this place like we can, then they deserve to pay the smoke ninjas a weed tax for being so foolishly unstealthy. You have to be as tangible and visible as a mere cloud of smoke, damn you. Well anyways, the great thing about this place is that nobody ever comes in here. These plants are kinda just stored up here and then they're left here until somebody comes to pick them up. And even then, I've never seen this person or people, so I'm fairly certain this place is just a front for some mafia racketeering business and they've paid off the fucking pigs to never check this place for any suspicious comings or goings. Just make sure that if you're taking a smoke ninja tax from some of these leaves, don't take too much or you might alert the actual people who are behind this and get yourself disappeared from Bullworth and end up eating sea dust with the fishes. So basically I'm saying, just take it easy in here and chill out because on top of the privacy and the free stuff, it's indoors. You don't have to worry about the rain or the wind, and it's not usually too cold in here when it gets late either. It's a nice little place that I like to explore around every now and then, so just because it is a little far from school grounds where you practically live, I think it's perfect to slot in to our number 8 spot. Sprouting our plans at number 7 is cooking saplings at the comic store. It's time to nip it with the nerds right at the heart of where they go shopping, at the comic store. This was an integral place for those plans I mentioned. It was important to get on the good side with the nerds because they were vital for another step in the plans for the big prank. Essentially, we needed them to forge up some A+ level cheat sheets for the jocks. I'll get into that later, but in order for the nerds to work with us on that, we needed to help most of them become class captains and class presidents. I believe their complete lack of control or ability to have a say in the school, mixed with their superior smarts and just with a sprinkling of their fantasy games wherein they are the absolute measure of strength, led to all the nerds having a desperate need for positions of power in their real lives. That's a little pathetic if you ask me, but who was I to argue? We needed those cheat sheets for the jocks, so we communed here in this comic shop to hatch the plan for their rise to curricular correction. In this back room of the comic shop was where it all happened. Every few days we would meet up here to discuss the progress of their political power plays within the school. They called teacher-approved class meetings, which nobody else was ever interested in, so they were pretty much just running for president with a party of one. However, even a party of one can't win elections if it has 0 votes, and this is where the comic shop truly shines. In the regular retail section of the store, they sell all kinds of prankster materials for any would-be troublemakers. So, we approached the everyday school ground bullies with a proposition to be part of the biggest prank that Bullworth has ever seen. Convinced by the assortment of arms from the store, they were on board. Their only requirement to be in on the job was to put in the legwork for these nerds, setting up posters, flyers, and spreading the word around to get voting on these class captains and class presidents. I made a promise to them that when these nerds were fully inducted into their political positions, the bullies would be part of the big prank. So, things proceeded well, as I continued meeting the nerds here every few days to discuss updates on their school system storming. Eventually, it was done and dusted. The bullies pulled through on their end and got the nerds elected. Suffice to say that many celebrations were had in the comic store. The nerds never had a problem with me crashing in this back room, nor with me lighting up in here, even while they were around. In fact, on the day that the election results were in, they even partook in some greenery themselves. So, one part of the plan was successfully executed, and our march towards making this big prank a reality was established. And you know what? I continued to chill out at the comic store alongside the nerds, even after this comic store part of the plan was complete. The nerds, they're not half bad, and hell, they're pretty funny when they get on the smoky side of things. Luckily enough, this room is isolated enough that there's not much of a smell that escapes into the store itself, so there's no trail for the fucking pigs to follow if they were to come into the building. I have good memories at this comic shop, and I'll never forget the part this played in the big prank. So, I'm glad to have this smoke spot at number 7. Quietly creating discrete documents at number 6 is the book room behind the scenes charting cheat sheets. This next spot is quite similar to our last, purely in terms of nerd population, but it gets to be higher on the list because it's located directly next to the dorms. The ease of access is one pretty decent point for this smoke spot, but you also must consider the atmosphere. The library of Bullworth Academy is old and historic. Now, I'm not sure how true this is, but I heard that before Bullworth Academy even existed, this library was here, and it was only after they decided to build a school that they got permission to incorporate the library as it was into the school grounds. So anyways, after we stop getting green in the time machine over here, we can see what all this amounts to for this smoke spot. Inside the building straight away, you have the wide open halls on either side of you. They are adorned with large windows which help keep it brightened up, but also lets it feel really cozy in times of rain as each droplet collides with the large glass shields of this warm fortress. Further inside you have your open spaces, heated with the ever-burning fireplace. This is usually for more traditional library study purposes, but there's nothing to stop you from lighting up at these desks. Besides, the school librarian, which applies to this whole spot, by the way. But if you're like me and have built somewhat of a decent relationship with the nerds by assisting in some political campaigning, they can help you out on this matter. They often tell the librarian to take long breaks from being inside here because, as she works away at her old computer, it makes too much noise that distracts the nerds from their studies. So whenever I want to roll up here, the nerds have no problem helping out with getting rid of the rat. Most notable for this spot, for me anyways, was the fact that this was the forgery factory for our cheat sheet production step in the plans for the big prank. You see, we needed alcohol from the jocks, since they were the only ones who could get it without the fucking pigs coming down on their backs. Now, the alcohol wasn't for us, although we did keep a little bit. The alcohol was actually for the preppies. I'll explain the preppy side of things later, but basically, the jocks would only give us alcohol if we traded them some top-tier, indisputable, professor-grade exam cheat answers. And I mean, these things came in all forms, like little roll-up notes that fit inside of sleeves, shoes and pens, nearly invisible ink text that can only be seen by a very close eye, and down to even just classic cheat sheets that can be hidden somewhere that only the student knows where to look to see them during the exam. You see, the jocks had a problem. They wanted to be on this football team no matter what. They wanted careers out of this sport. But they were told if their grades didn't improve, they would be kicked from the team. At the same time, they did not want to give up their alcohol-based dorm parties in place of a little study. It's a little pathetic if you ask me, but that's where I came in. I needed to get alcohol for these preppy kids, and I knew if I got in go with the nerds, they could get me some exam cheats for these jocks to get their grades up. So, one nerdy political play later, I was smoking up some fat doobs while overlooking the nerds at work, producing some of the finest, hardest to catch exam cheats that Bullworth Academy had ever gotten lodged in its educationally crushing bowels. It really was something, watching the cogs of the big prank machine slowly turn. Really added a nice spice to the graciously green library lumps that I lit in lieu of the litigations for each newly knighted nerd. Swapping better grades for brew and gin at number 5 is Pool House Pulls from the Jocks Gin and Juice. At the far end of the school grounds in the athletics section we can find the pool house. As you can guess, this was the aquasport facility, but with the key word here being was. If we head inside we will see the pool entirely drained. A few years ago some kid drowned here and it forced the staff of Bullworth Academy to take action in response, lest they receive bad PR for doing nothing about it and, in turn, losing a decent percentage of annual student enrollment rates. So, on an everyday basis the pool remains drained. They only fill it back up for specific sports events and upon request by the gym teacher for the rare occasion of aquasport activities. All of this is to say that you will likely never see this pool filled with water when you smoke up at this spot. Now, I know that seems like quite an irrelevant point, but actually it helps to keep things more low-key. Without the pool being filled and ready for use at all times, it completely removes the chances of other students passing by here and having swimming sessions while you're trying to spark up in peace. In fact, it essentially removes all chances of anyone walking through here and catching you on a smoke sesh to report to the staff, since there's literally nothing else to see or do in here with the pool drained. Another great point for this smoke spot is that the smell of freshly cut and cindered cedar is going to disperse very quickly, as the airflow in here is meant to accommodate for a pool filled with chlorine. So the ventilation is good at evacuating any lingering smoke sesh scent. These are all not only great points for this smoke spot as, well, a smoke spot, but also good contributing factors for this place as the nerd to jock trading post. As per the previously showcased spot, I now had a production line at work for highly accurate and effective exam cheats, the main purpose for which was to trade to the jocks in exchange for alcohol. So I mentioned that the alcohol wasn't for us, but it was actually for the preppy kids, and that was because they wanted to get drunk and have a few crazy parties of their own, despite them and their families being highly esteemed and rich posh folk. You see, these inbred, high-horse riding preppies couldn't resist their urges to get a little hammered on the hooch hot juice. But the only thing that held more power over them than their wishes for getting wasted was their reputations to uphold. As I said, these preppies came from rich families on the good side of town, and all their interrelated parents know all the important people of Bullworth and surrounding areas. So with these connections comes better opportunities for these preppies than most, with high-paying job offers, good college options, and overall easy pathways to expensive yet sustainable lifestyle positions. Of course, all of that is open to these preppy kids if they uphold their families and their own reputations for being the figureheads of form and formality. That's a little pathetic if you ask me, but I was able to facilitate those preppies' freedom in exchange for cash, so who was I to argue? However, getting the alcohol to those preppies was a different can of worms altogether, so I'll get into that later. But anyways, this spot was great because it was close enough for the jocks to mosey on over to from their usual hangout in the locker rooms or the football field, both of which also in the athletics section, of course. We usually had to set up a time with the jocks for when to be here and how many beers they were going to trade for each or any of our professional exam cheats, meaning that there was often a fair amount of waiting around, which always lent a perfect opportunity to light up a doobie or two. The jocks, despite being alcohol crazies, were not a big fan of the devil's lettuce, but they were getting their grade-bumping, career-saving exam cheats from us, so they didn't really push us on lighting up at our meeting spot. You know, I often return here, absent of any alcohol trades, because it's kinda nice to have a peaceful indoor smoke sesh that has a lot of space. I know the warehouse at number 8 kind of fills that role, but this spot has all of that and it's on campus. This is definitely a reliable one to remember. Shooting some b-ball outside school at number 4 is the preposterous booze bottle collectors at the Preppies basketball court. When I said outside of school, I mean really outside. This spot is pretty much the furthest point northwest that you can go in the region of Bullworth. Now, for people coming from school grounds, this one will definitely be a pain in the ass to get to in terms of distance. But I must say, I really do like this spot and I think it's worth the journey across town. Especially because once you get here, you can kinda just stay and use this spot for hours. And if you catch this spot on a nice sunny summer day, then you've got a great few hours ahead of you for chilling out while taking some court tar kush tokes. A nice feature of this spot is the seclusion. I mean, when you get here and when passing by, it's literally right there for you to head inside, but once you're actually in there, it has a greater sense of privacy with 4 large walls on each side. This feature is no accident, however. You see, this part of Bullworth is the preppy neighbourhood, with all the rich kids and their rich families. So a few years ago, all the preppies banded together and convinced their parents to contribute a few $1,000s each into building this basketball court for the preppies to enjoy in their own area, and they were trusted enough to be given the privacy that we see in the walls all around it. So anyways, if you and your friends stop by here to rub some grub and chill for good, you're gonna be blessed with a good time. Just imagine it, sitting back, taking a few rips while some of your homies are shooting hoops, no doubt missing entirely and falling on their asses, but it's one hell of a fun time that you'll be eager to return for, more often than you realise. The only thing that might make you give this place a miss is, of course, the preppies themselves. They can be very pissy sometimes, and if they don't like you or simply just want you out of here, all they have to do is get their parents involved, and especially if you got some herb on you, it's not gonna go well. Luckily for me though, I don't have trouble with the preppies. I built a good relationship with them a while ago during the lead up to the big prank. These rich kids are stuck up, super strict, really entitled, and overall very hostile to anyone outside of their rich circle of family and friends. But you know what? The way these kids were raised, it's not entirely their fault. And it showed, because they had enough of their strict lifestyles. They wanted to get wasted on whiskey and rye, and I was the one to provide it. While in school or around the town, of course, they still kept up appearances, but under the surface, they were just itching for a piss-up. You gotta understand, to these people, reputation is everything, and to a degree it actually is. If their families found out that they were bathing with the blundered bunch of Bullworth bums. They'd be denied allowance, technology usage, and even be closed off from connecting with others in their high and holy circle of powerful people, which, if kept up in the long run, would genuinely have an effect on how their lives play out in regards to their futures. So they couldn't be seen drinking alcohol, attempting to buy or procure alcohol, or just in general be seen around any alcohol. So, way out here on their side of town, they can trade some of their hefty allowances in exchange for some cans of the devilish elixir, all in privacy here at this basketball court. Sometimes their parents would be around, so they'd have no choice but to stay and hang around while they wait for the opportunity to arise where they can stealthily get back where their beers are secured. So after a few different occasions of hanging around these preppies, I figured out they're not all that bad at basketball. Or at least they're much better than me anyways. So with the lack of choice for them to leave the spot immediately after paying me for the alcohol, they weren't in any position to rat me out to their parents, or the fucking pigs, about toking up some forbidden flowers. Or else they'd jeopardize their only source of beer. They learned to tolerate it, and eventually they didn't mind being around it at all. Hence why it's still chill for me to puff in peace, even when these preppies are hanging around. And you know what? Once you get to know some of these preppies, they aren't all that bad. I mean, they seek the freedoms of free people with the passion of youth in their youth, just the same as any of us. It was a nice eye-opener that I learned during the step for the setup for the big prank. Anyways, this spot is great in many regards. The wall acts as good protection from the wind, serves to provide good privacy, and of course, there's hoops here just waiting to be balled in. This is up there with some of my favourite spots to chill out at in Bullworth for sure. Greasing our wheels at number 3 is the Cargo Box Chillax and Outback Dirt Track. Contrasting our previous northwestern smoke spot, we're now heading to the northeastern side of Bullworth. Opposite to our last spot taking place in the rich part of town where all the preppies can be found, we are now in the, let's say, less fortunate part of town where all the greasers usually hang out. Turning left at the Blue Skies Industrial Park Bridge, you'll happen across this spot, and it should hopefully stand out right away as the opening to this mound of cargo boxes becomes apparent. Once you turn inside, it feels like you've now entered a secret base, and in a sense, you have. This is a perfect covert enclosure to rip some of Bullworth's best boofs, even considering the fact that this is the part of town that also contains one of the police stations. But there's a silver lining here. The police of Bullworth are notorious for their high rates of alcoholism within their ranks, and on top of that, use of excessive force, unlawful profiling, reckless and unlawful discharge of firearms, and just overall breach of security and safety. But the alcoholism though, that means that the fucking pigs usually aren't anywhere near the precinct because they're off on a bender and don't want to be caught drinking on the job by a responsible individual. This spot really has it all though. It feels nice and hidden away within its boundaries. It, in and of itself, has 3 different levels of hotbox opportunities, and to top it all off, it even has electricity. First of all, let me mention the hotbox potential here. So for one, you have the tall box. This one is honestly not even that good at all for hotbox potential. The roof is a little too high and makes it so that any colliding and combining clouds of smoke actually remain as clouds up above. But if you need the space and you have the people for it, this one can be your hotbox option. The opposite option also awaits your exhaling attention. This tiny wooden box was an outhouse with a little toilet inside, but not anymore. It's been taken out completely. Now all that's left is just a small wooden box that can really hold a hit between 2 tokers. Finally, we have the hotbox in between those two, and this one is the best of both worlds, with more. For one thing, it doesn't take too many people to make a nice greenhouse out of this trailer, but it also does demand a few bud buddies to chill out in there with, especially with the electricity, meaning anyone and everyone could be gaming in the trailer while token up. Now, I know you've been waiting for the greaser aspect of this spot. The greasers are more into alcohol, not so much with the hellish cabbage, so they may be mad to see you in here in their hangout hideaway, smoking up some fumes and stinking up their quarters. But, as always, you gotta get past it by making a few friends. I became friendly with the greasers, one reason for which was to make life easier around the town by being on good terms with more people, and not have to worry about them giving me a hard time or getting in my way. But another reason was also because they had something that was going to be very useful in the execution of the big prank. So, as you'll recall, I was able to put together a supply line to grant me access to alcohol, which I then traded for extortionate prices with the prep kids. That was my way of gathering enough of them sweet paper dollars to close out this long daisy chain of close bonds between the different cliques around Bullworth. And it was all for this moment. You see, a while ago I made a deal with the greasers that if I paid them good money, they'd teach me how to drive pro like them. I mean, every one of the greasers, they've been driving since they were like 12 years old. They know pretty much everything there is to know about cars, how they work, how to fix them, and most importantly for me, how to drive them. That's where the second feature of this spot comes in. The Outback Dirt Track. This is where all the training would happen. Hidden away from the main roads, there was no worry about getting caught or ratted out by some salty adult. And also no risk of causing a car crash on the actual roads. Also, a nice additional fact about this track is what used to be just pure mud back here is now dirt and dust that's easier to drive on because the greasers have absolutely ripped up this back road over time, blending together different, more friction-prone materials, which was very smart on their part when it came to driving along this back strip. Anyways, I promised to pay them good for their services, but in reality, I paid them very good, just as a show of good faith and to make sure they truly teach me the ways of the wheel to the best of their ability. Needless to say, walking away with heavy cash-filled pockets made them very happy, and they didn't think twice to tell me off for sparking up a relaxing doob when I was in their cargo box base, or while doing some car practice on the dirt track. Sometimes we even shared the green grains in a rollie inside the trailer while playing some of the newest racing games. I mean, seriously, racing games were the only thing these guys played. But we had great times, I can't lie. I even beat a few of their high scores, which was exciting and really gave me a new appreciation for what they see as true art when it comes to cars and just vehicles in general. So, to round off the actual smoke spot, I am certain this is where this smoke spot belongs on the list due to its high and diverse use cases, influenced as always of course by my own personal history with it and its resident people. Hot boxing, free smoking in the sun, or tearing up the dirt track, you can't go wrong with this number 3 spot. Swooping in at an honourable mention is freelancing freedom at the happening heart. The town square of Bullworth. Honestly, and I must say this before I go on, this is a risky smoke spot. A great one, but risky. This is quite literally the town square, so even attempting to have a nice cold beer around here can get you into trouble. However, Bullworth has multiple festivities throughout the year, celebrating the town's founding date, celebrating the mayor's birthday, celebrating when Bullworth sports teams make it to any major national or international level, and so on. The people who run this city love to make things happen, and it's always with a parade wherein the Bullworth music and marching band comes along. The reason they love to make activity in the town, mostly in the town square, is because it allows the rich folk to be satisfied with the congregations in fancy buildings and inviting over other rich friends from out of town. However, this constant action and causes for celebration creates opportune moments for the young people too. During these times, all the adults are distracted by the ceremonies and socializing, and this applies to all of the iron rulers of Bullworth, including civil servants, old bitter rich folk, fucking pigs, and also each and every nasty, corrupt and power-drunk professor from Bullworth Academy. Finally, there's a chance to be free. Sneaking off away from the parade at the town square lets you go to any of the smoke spots mentioned so far without any hassle, any trouble, any crushing or confiscation from authorities who demand that you have diminished freedoms because you're just a dumb little kid who doesn't know anything about the world and who cannot be trusted enough to hold the freedoms of regular people. Some of my proudest moments at Bullworth Academy so far have been connecting with all the different people who, at face value, fall into different groups or cliques or gangs or whatever broad label they may be given. But it was upon connecting with each of them and finding some kind of common ground between them that I dangled the idea of bridging the gap between each of their separate groups right in the faces of each separate one of the groups, and every single time they grabbed it. Turns out it's merely just their pursuits of their forbidden freedoms that led them into different factions of troublemakers. But you have to think, would they really be all so separated? Would they all really be so much as troublemakers if the warlord professors allowed these students to flourish and freely follow their favourite flavours of pastimes and interests and hobbies that make them interesting people to begin with? So what if smoking a joint calms me down and lets me feel extra relaxed when I spark one up every now and then, in safe moderation? So what if the preppies want to explore more of what life has to give for excitement instead of living in the eternal shadow of their parents and their families? So what if the nerds want to challenge the rulers themselves and chase the idea of having an impact on the world that they live in, like they do within their wildest fantasies of magic worlds? So what if the jocks want to pursue a career in sports and fitness by dedicating all their time to it, putting all their hopes and passions and reliances into this one big dream of theirs? So what if the greasers want to hang around and drive cars for a living and become race car drivers and inventors and engineers and mechanics, working on whatever they deem fit for their time? And so what if the bullies want to be part of something bigger, to be seen? Maybe they bully others because of what happened to them in their own lives and they've had no outlet or opportunity for help, so they leap at a chance to be seen and heard and recognized. So what if we are all truly as free as they tell us we are? We have youth and passions and dreams and futures, and we have freedom. And it's about time we took hold of our lives and broke free. It's time we took our lives back from these teachers who oh so righteously oppress us every day under leather boots, who point and call us cogs in the machine. Every pull of smoke, every sip of whiskey, every public speech, every skipped class, every drift on tar, every single freedom put to use is a cry of power rising in the people. We show those teachers, the teachers who point and call us bricks in the wall, we show them just what kind of force a ton of bricks can have. Rolling in place at number 2 is the banefully burned bus Boofing. So perhaps you want a reliable spot close to home on campus. Well, I've got one that should be adequate, provided that nearby there's no professors, prefects, or fucking pigs. Through the entryway to the side of the main gates, we can find our way into the school car park. You should wait until this place is empty of any cars before proceeding to this smoke spot though. On the side we can see an old broken down bus that's definitely not going anywhere. This was one of the regular buses that cruised the town of Bullworth. That was until Halloween night last year. This bus was making its rounds in the town, bringing the folks up and down. In good time, the bus line had made its route just fine, until the fright in the dead of night, when there outbroke a fight. On the final abule before the school, the bus was quickly overruled. Seized by students despising Newton, the slingshot rocks began a shooting. 15 bastards who grew all the faster tossed the pilot ass to plaster. A menace inside began to drive, and to Bullworth's streets they terrorized. Decorations of the spooky fog were attacked and torn by each rock lobbed. People of the clearing had enough by seeing it, so the pigs they called to end the fearing. They responded in turn by engines aburn and fury in their drunken sterns. The pigs ripped tire and opened fire until the bus was nothing but a blazing pyre. The one at rule steered the mule and ran it in panic back to school. Slammed and shot in the parking lot, the bus lay bare and not forgot. The pigs came soon, and under the moon they watched their work upon the loons. The fire blazed like a burning cage and took the lives of those misbehaved. But one survivor, who was the prank's driver, walked out engulfed, and it was the driver. He screamed and tumbled, and the pigs fumbled to extinguish the flames that they had rumbled. The driver was brought off to care, the bus was laid bare, and the charcoal bodies were extracted there. Tragically deathly, the prank had done plenty, like taking its toll on the wicked and friendly. The burned boy lived as he wore the green rigs of a ninja under which his burned body hid. They remember the names who fell to the flames, yet the school still never dares move those haunted remains. So anyways, how does this hold up as a smoke spot? Well, it's got decent shelter from the sun, which I think we all may need, especially coming into the summer. It's also got some places to sit back while rolling or smoking up, so that's always a win. Also, let's not understate the ease of access here. It's literally in the school parking lot. Now of course that does mean it's a little easier to be spotted here, as I tried to warn about beforehand. But luckily, this spot also has a solution to that. There's a side exit to the bus that opens out into a small grassy enclosure. This hidden place is out of sight from the other side of the bus, and I usually find that in order to smell the grass happening going on back there, you gotta be passing relatively close by the bus. So oftentimes you can get away with using this spot while there's still staff activity going on school grounds. It's also nice to come here and remember those fallen to the flames. They may have been troublemakers, sure, but they certainly did not deserve to meet their maker that night. We all do stupid things when we're young, and most of the time we're lucky enough to grow up and think back on the stupidity rather than paying gravely for it. This spot has plenty of memories and tragedies, so I'm keeping it solemnly at number 2 for its abashed background. Freely feeling the noiseless nighttime's dark draught from Bullworth's breezes on our furtive faces for number 1 is the dark night of drunken highs. You know, despite how tragedy and grief can make you feel, The world doesn't get sucked into the black hole that is the absence of someone you love. In fact, after enough time you realize that the absence of a loved one isn't a black hole at all. It's a star that shines brightly so as to illuminate everything else around you and give you clarity where once it was an endless dark. I say all this as a means of bringing clarity to you all at this final smoke spot in the Bullworth Cemetery. These graves will forever hold the names of those lives lost to the great tragedy of Bullworth's big prank, and it is our time to grant them peace by taking a stroll by them and sparking one up in their memory. I can say though, on behalf of every single one of these people, they would have wanted us to keep on living and keep on moving forward with bigger and better things and not let ourselves get dragged down by the guilt of being associated with something so tragic. They all would have wanted us to move forward with the lives we still have, but just that we enjoy everything a little extra for which they can no longer. That's why I specifically chose this spot to be ready for night time, because in Bullworth, if you get too tired you can straight up just pass out right where you stand. But yet, some of the craziest nights for the youth in Bullworth have been way past curfew. At midnight, you have all the adults, the teachers, the shopkeepers, the workers, all of them sound asleep in bed. But the jocks? They're chugging beers and arm wrestling in someone's dorm. The nerds? They're likely up playing video games or reading under some lamplight. The preppies? They're most certainly doing some of their secret club stuff. I don't fully know, to be honest. They only really let rich people in there, but still. The greasers? You can bet they love road racing when they're not sharing the road with anyone else besides their opponent. And you see, that's all just nighttime in general. But nowadays, the jocks host parties where everyone is involved. The preppies may show up and won't drink as hard as the jocks. The nerds will likely show up bearing gifts of sugary sweet treats on their personal notes from school, but at least they're still there. The greasers, they might show up late because they were too busy tuning up engines, but at the end of the day, or at the end of the night I suppose, everyone is together. At night, you can go almost anywhere. You can be friends with almost anyone, and there'd be a place to stay or people to see or things to do. When you're out there just walking along the sidewalk at night, it's only a matter of time before one of them greasers pass by and ask if you need a lift to get to the next sesh down in old Bullworth Vale. It's times like that when you realise that when there's darkness, there very truly is still life. Live young and free forever, Smoke Ninjas, and don't you dare go hollow out there. I'll see you at the next sesh.